You text them, nothing. You give them space, still nothing. Then the second you start letting go, they appear like nothing happened. Calm face, steady voice, maybe even acting like they were thinking about you the whole time. And that messes with your head, because now you are stuck between two painful stories. One says they do not care. The other says they care, but in a way that keeps hurting you. So which one is true? Here is what most people never understand. Some people do not run because they feel nothing. They run because feeling too much scares them. They do not shut down because you are worthless. They shut down because closeness wakes up old fear in them, and their first instinct is to protect themselves, not explain themselves. That does not excuse bad behavior, but it does change the way you read it. And once you see the pattern clearly, you stop begging for crumbs and start seeing what is real, what is fear, and what is never going to change. Stay with me, because what looks cold on the outside can sometimes be the loudest kind of love they know how to give. And if you miss the signs, you will keep reading the whole relationship in the wrong language. Most people who care about an avoidant spend too much time waiting for the text, waiting for the soft moment, waiting for the day this person finally relaxes and says, "Yes, I need you too." And while they wait, they slowly start turning on themselves. Maybe I asked for too much. Maybe I moved too fast. Maybe I imagined all of it. But the truth is usually harder and simpler than that. You were not always imagining it. You were often looking at real feeling through the wrong lens. Because avoidant people usually do not love in big, obvious, easy-to-read ways. They do not always come with sweet speeches, constant reassurance, and endless emotional access. A lot of the time their love looks quiet, useful, practical, sometimes almost invisible unless you know what you are seeing. And no, this is not about teaching you to accept scraps and call it romance. This is about clarity, because clarity protects you. It helps you stop calling confusion chemistry. It helps you stop calling pain destiny. And it helps you tell the difference between a person who is scared and trying and a person who is simply unavailable and taking up your heart anyway. That difference matters. It can save you years. So if this has ever made you feel crazy, keep listening, because the signs are there. They are just not written in the style most people are taught to expect. To understand the behavior, you have to understand where it starts. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides that closeness feels dangerous. That pattern usually gets built early, slowly, and deeply. A child reaches out and gets ignored. A child cries and gets shamed. A child needs comfort and gets distance, criticism, or care that feels conditional. So the child learns a brutal lesson. Needing people hurts. Depending on people is risky. Being vulnerable does not feel safe. And from there, the body starts building armor. Independence becomes protection. Self-control becomes safety. Silence becomes survival. So later, when that child grows up and enters adult love, their system still reacts like closeness is a threat. That is why emotional moments can make them shut down. That is why tenderness can trigger distance. That is why the deeper things get, the more their body can scream, back away, get space, do not let this person matter too much. It is not always thoughtful, it is automatic, it is old, it is learned. And if you are loving someone like this, you need to understand something important. When they pull back, it may not mean they feel nothing. Sometimes it means they feel exposed. Sometimes it means the very thing they want is also the very thing their nervous system does not know how to hold. That does not make the impact on you smaller, but it explains the blueprint behind the behavior, and that matters. So what does love actually look like from someone like this? First, look at who they become in a real moment. They may miss the little emotional check-ins. They may not be great at long talks at midnight. They may not text all day just because they miss you. But when something serious happens, watch closely. You get sick, and they are suddenly researching what to do. Your world falls apart, and they are at your door. You are in trouble, and they move fast. That matters. Crisis gives them a role, a task, a way to care without drowning in emotion. It gives structure to what would otherwise feel too open and too vulnerable. So while daily tenderness may freeze them, emergency tenderness can wake them up. And if they stay in the relationship at all, do not overlook that either. For someone who is wired to create distance when things get intense, staying is not small. Staying means they are living against an old reflex. It means some part of them keeps choosing the relationship even while another part wants to run. People who are naturally open may not understand the cost of that, but the cost is real. And when someone keeps paying that cost, keeps returning, keeps remaining in the room, there is information in that. Do not ignore it. Also, do not romanticize it blindly, just see it clearly. This is where many people miss the plot, so stay with me because the next signs get even more revealing. One of the clearest signs is not dramatic at all. It is when they let you into the private, ordinary parts of their life. Avoidant people are often extremely protective of their routines, their space, their habits, their little ways of doing things. Not because they are hiding some huge secret, but because privacy feels regulating to them. Their home is their reset button. Their rituals are how they stay steady. So when they start opening that world to you, it means something. Maybe they let you sit with them while they make coffee and say almost nothing. Maybe they let you see the side of them that is not polished, not performing, not trying to impress. Maybe they tell you about a strange hobby, a comfort movie, a tiny habit nobody else knows. That is intimacy. It may not look flashy, it may not arrive wrapped in romance the way movies teach you to expect, but it is real. It is them saying, "This is my real world, and I am letting you stand inside it." And then there is another level. They stop keeping every part of life in separate boxes. They mention you to family. They bring you near their inner places. They let you meet the people or see the spaces that matter to them. For a person who survives by compartmentalizing, blending worlds is vulnerability. It is exposure. It is trust. So if they start doing that, notice it. Quiet signs are still signs. Sometimes the deepest move is not a speech, it is access. Then there are the feelings that slip out sideways. Avoidant people often try to manage emotion by acting like it is not there. They downplay it, they intellectualize it, they turn it into logic, but some feelings are harder to hide, and jealousy is one of them. You mention someone new and their face changes for half a second. You talk about an ex and they go strangely quiet. You say you're going out and suddenly they have opinions they never had before. They probably will not say, "I feel jealous." That sentence asks for too much naked truth, but the emotion leaks through anyway, and when it does, pay attention. People do not get activated over losing something they truly do not care about. Another major sign is this. They come back after distance. Now be careful here, because this point gets misused all the time. If someone disappears, returns, disappears again, never reflects, never grows, never takes responsibility, that is not beautiful. That is just a harmful cycle. But if someone pulls back because they got overwhelmed, then actually returns, reconnects, and slowly tries to do a little better, that tells you something different. It tells you the bond matters enough to survive their fear. It tells you the connection keeps pulling on them even after their defense system kicks in. That does not mean you should accept endless inconsistency. It means you should learn to tell the difference between panic with effort and distance with indifference. Huge difference, and that difference can change what you do next. Another sign people miss is when an avoidant opens up even a little. For some people, sharing feelings is natural. For them, it can feel like standing without skin. So if they say something honest like, "That hurt me," or "I do not know how to handle this," or "This reminds me of something from years ago," do not rush past it. Do not turn it into a giant performance. Do not punish it. Do not mock it later. Just hold it carefully, because that moment probably cost them more than you realize. They test emotional safety in drops, not floods. A little truth here, a small confession there, a brief window into what is actually going on under all that control. And if that opening is received with steadiness, not chaos, they may try it again. Also watch for practical inclusion. They make room for you. Their schedule starts bending a little. Their home starts making space for your presence. Their routines, once locked down, begin to shift to include your life. That might look tiny from the outside, a drawer cleared out, a morning adjusted, a plan made with your comfort in mind. But for someone whose independence is their shield, rearranging life is a serious gesture. It means you are no longer being kept fully outside the gate. It means they are not only thinking about themselves anymore. And if you have ever wondered whether small actions count more than big words with this kind of person, the answer is yes. Very often they do. Here is one that confuses a lot of people. If they fight with you, that can actually mean they still care. Not toxic fighting, not cruelty, not attacking you, but actual engagement. Because the avoidant default in conflict is usually to shut down, detach, or act like nothing is wrong. So if they stay in the conversation, push back, get frustrated, circle back to the issue, or show that they are affected, it means they are still emotionally involved. When they are truly done, many of them do not explode. They fade, they go flat, they go quiet in a permanent way. The emotional charge disappears. So if they are still wrestling with you, still reacting, still trying in their clumsy way to handle conflict, there is still energy there is still investment there, and then there is the quiet care that shows up later. They remember the thing you mentioned in passing, they ask how the appointment went, they send something useful about the problem you told them about days ago. They check if you are feeling better, not always with soft words, not always with poetic timing, but they remember and then they act. That matters. Being remembered is one of the clearest forms of care. It means you stayed in their mind when you were not in front of them. It means their attention returned to you on its own. A lot of avoidant love looks like that. Functional, subtle, unannounced, but very real. If you have lived on grand gestures, you might miss it. Do not. Now let me say the part that needs to be said with no confusion at all. None of this means you should call hurtful behavior love when it is not. Silence that becomes punishment is not love. Disappearing for weeks with no respect for your reality is not love. Using your softness against you is not love. Making you feel small for having needs is not love. There is a line between someone loving in a limited, defended way and someone simply failing to love you well enough to build anything safe. The line is movement. The line is effort. The line is whether there is growth over time. A person who cares and is trying may still struggle. They may still go quiet. They may still need space. They may still be awkward with feelings and late with apologies and messy in conflict. But over time, you will see signs of stretching, a little more honesty, a little more return, a little more accountability, a little more courage. If there is no movement, only excuses, only loops, only repeated pain with zero repair, then what you are in is not a deep love story. It is a pattern eating your peace. That distinction matters more than chemistry. It matters more than potential. It matters more than how intense the connection feels. Because intensity can come from fear just as easily as love, sometimes even more easily. And if this is hitting a nerve, good. That means you are hearing it where you need to hear it. Loving someone unpredictable does something to your body whether you admit it or not. It trains you into alertness. You start reading every delay like a clue. Every message feels loaded. Every soft moment feels like relief. And every pullback feels like danger. After a while, your nervous system stops resting. It starts tracking. It starts bracing. It starts making someone else's inconsistency the center of your emotional weather. And that can become addictive in a way people do not like to talk about. Because when warmth comes after distance, it hits like a reward. Your brain latches onto the relief. You feel chosen for a moment, safe for a moment, then it disappears, and you chase the next return. That pattern can hook you deeply, especially if you already fear abandonment, especially if part of you believes love has to be earned through patience, performance, or proving you are worth staying for. So hear this clearly. Confusion is not intimacy. Hypervigilance is not romance. Relief is not always security. If every connection feels like a test, if every day feels like you could lose the whole relationship because the mood shifted, then you are not only dealing with their pattern, you are now dealing with what that pattern is doing to you, and your well-being matters in this story too. Actually, it matters more than decoding them perfectly, because understanding them should never cost you yourself. If you feel that line blurring, do not ignore it. That is not weakness. That is wisdom knocking. So what do you do with all this? First, stop trying to force them to love in your exact language before they are capable of it. That only turns every interaction into disappointment. If they care in practical ways, see that. If they show up quietly, notice that. If they need more time with emotional words, understand that. But at the same time, do not erase your own needs just to keep the connection alive. That is where people lose themselves. They become so busy translating the other person that they abandon their own truth. You can understand someone and still decide their current way of loving is not enough for you. Both things can be true at once. Second, stop chasing every time they pull back. This is hard, but it matters. When they withdraw and you panic, overtext, over-explain, overreach, the pressure usually confirms their fear that closeness is too much. It does not bring them nearer. It often pushes them farther. So regulate yourself instead. Ground yourself. Go live your life. Take care of your body. Talk to someone safe. Hold your center. not as a game, not as manipulation, as self-respect. Let them come back to someone steady, not someone collapsing. That changes the whole energy. Third, build a full life that does not rise and fall on their availability. People who have their own purpose, rhythm, friends, joy, and direction feel safer to love because they are not asking one relationship to carry the whole weight of their identity. Fullness creates room. Desperation creates pressure. That truth is uncomfortable, but it is real. And then comes the part nobody can answer for you. Know your limits, not your fantasy limits, your real ones, not what you can survive for 6 more months because you are attached, not what you can explain away because leaving feels worse today. I mean what you can genuinely live with over time without shrinking, resenting, or slowly disappearing inside the relationship. Because growth in an avoidant person is possible, but it is often slow, sometimes painfully slow. And your job is not to sit on the side of the road forever clapping for tiny signs while your own heart breaks in private. Your job is to ask an honest question. Can I live with the pace of this without betraying myself? That is the real question. Not, do I love them enough? Love is usually not the issue. The issue is sustainability, peace, mutual effort, direction. Attachment patterns are not permanent prison sentences. People can heal, they can soften, they can learn to stay longer in hard talks, name feelings a little sooner, repair instead of disappearing, and choose closeness without feeling destroyed by it. But nobody can do that work because you are amazing, because you waited, because you understood them perfectly, or because you suffered beautifully. They do it because they decide the old armor costs too much. That choice has to come from them. You can invite safety. You cannot manufacture readiness. You can model steadiness. You cannot drag someone into emotional growth they do not truly want. At some point, honesty becomes more loving than endless guessing. That means saying what you see and what you need in simple, calm language. Not dramatic, not threatening, just clear. This is the pattern I see. This is what it does to me. This is what I need if we are going to keep building. For an avoidant person, that kind of clarity can feel intense. They may go quiet at first, they may need a moment, but the ones who are truly trying will come back to the conversation. Maybe awkwardly, maybe imperfectly, maybe not with the exact words you wanted, but they will return. The ones who are not willing, not ready, or not invested enough usually tell you through disappearance, delay, or endless deflection. And painful as that is, it is still information. Better a hard truth than a beautiful confusion that eats another year of your life. Also remember this, understanding someone's wounds does not make you responsible for bleeding from them forever. Compassion is not a contract to stay no matter what. You can see the pain in them, care about the story behind it, even admire the parts of them that are trying, and still decide that the relationship is costing you too much. That is not cold, that is mature, that is self-respect, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop calling suffering loyalty. If you are the only one stretching, the only one reflecting, the only one carrying the emotional weight, then it is not a hard season, it is an uneven bond. So if you have been staring at someone who seems distant, hard to read, slow to open, and you keep asking yourself if any of it is real, stop zooming in on only the cold moments. Look at the full picture. Look at whether they show up when life gets hard. Look at whether they stay when running would be easier. Look at whether they let you into the private corners of their life. Look at whether they remember the small things, make space for you, come back after fear, try to talk after shutting down, and show signs of growth over time. That is where your answer lives. Love from a person like this rarely arrives polished. It often looks rough, restrained, awkward, delayed, and imperfect. But when it is real, it keeps reaching, it keeps returning, it keeps trying to move in your direction even while fear pulls the other way. And when it is not real, you will feel the difference. There will be no movement, no repair, no real effort. Only excuses, distance, and you doing all the emotional labor alone. So learn the language, yes, learn the pattern, learn the signs, but do not lose your own voice while you are becoming fluent in theirs. Because the goal is not just to understand whether they love you, the goal is to understand whether this love can actually hold you with care. And that is the standard, not perfect, not movie-like, not constant fireworks, just genuine, growing, honest love that does not ask you to betray yourself in order to keep it. If this hit you, sit with it for a minute, because once you see the pattern clearly, you cannot unsee it, and that clarity can change everything.